Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes? Mr. Bowersox?
Here.
Ms. Chenoweth?
Present.
Mr. Lewis?
Present.
Mr. Rock? Ms. Stevenson?
Present.
Mayor Pressing?
Here. Okay, the first thing is the approval of minutes of the previous meetings. First, we have May 2nd, 2005, the regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I move approval. And I would second that.
All those, is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. The minutes of May 9th, 2005, special meeting.
So moved.
Any discussion?
Actually, there's a small typo on the first set of minutes on the last page. R-O-L-E should be spelled R-O-L-L.
You'll make a motion to reconsider?
Typo.
Well, okay, I think we can get that fixed. What about the May 9th? Is there a motion to approve that? So moved.
And I would second that motion.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Okay, I think we'd like to give the firefighter awards presentation now. Is Fire Chief here?
If I may ask firefighter Philip Edwards, Greg Kingston, and firefighter Dwayne Bishop to please come forward.
You can take that microphone off there. Can't walk very far, though.
Typical firefighters. Good evening, everyone. This is a very special moment for us. It reflects back to a day in November that was not necessarily a very happy day for us, but it ended up in a very good moment. On November 7, 2004, firefighter Dwayne Bishop, standing here on the end, suffered, I'm going to say a heart attack. I'm not sure if I'm defining that correctly, but we had a heart condition of some type that occurred while on duty on Station 2 down at south on Philo Road. These two gentlemen, firefighter Kingston and firefighter Phillips, were there with him and happened to be stationed at the right place at the right time. So we only can say things could have been worse, but we're standing here today with a very healthy, and we're also very, very pleased this man is standing here with us, Dwayne Bishop. At that time, company officer Dave Newcomb, nominated these two firefighters for the National Heroism Award, and they were selected by the Firehouse magazine for one level of the Heroism Award for 2004. So we're here to present them their certificates, their medals, and our appreciation. So if I may, I'd like to read to you the citation. On Saturday, November 6, 2004, firefighter Dwayne Bishop suffered a heart attack while on duty. Firefighter James Kingston and firefighter Philip Edwards immediately began life-saving efforts to revive firefighter Bishop. On behalf of the Firehouse magazine, Urbana Fire Rescue Services, and the City of Urbana, we are proud to present you the Heroism and Community Service Award for profound commitment and exemplary conduct in the finest tradition of the fire service. Thank you, gentlemen. So the first part we have here is the certificate from the Firehouse magazine, proudly presenting to firefighter Philip Edwards for the Heroism and Community Service Award. Included in this package, they sent him his own special edition of the magazine, which included photos of both of these fine firefighters, and there was a check they get to keep for their own services. I'll let you deal with that when you folks walked up. And then if you would step forward to the mayor has something to present you. I believe so. Yes, that is correct.
This is the middle. Very nice middle.
And again, this is for Gregory. Again, thank you, sir. We appreciate your service. promised to make this short, but I'd like to announce that we finally got this man to agree with us. We are having a retirement reception. I believe we're agreeing on May 26th at 3 o'clock in the afternoon here in the council chambers. We'd like all of you to attend to honor this man and the years of service he held for the city of Urbana. Thank you.
Are there any petitions or communications? There's one. Ah. Liz Cardman.
Hi. This is rather a mundane follow-up to moments of heroism, but so goes. Those of you who know me will probably be relieved to know I don't have my usual spreadsheet of information tonight on college towns. I'm here to offer my thanks to city staff, former council, and this council, but especially to city staff, on working with the West Urbana Neighborhood Association on developing a signage policy. It must have been at least 3 years ago that the steering committee of the West Urbana Neighborhood Association came up with the idea of specialty signs for the neighborhood and heartily approved the idea. And as with most big projects, it took a few years to get enough momentum and energy to really work on it. And starting last fall, we worked with Dr. Tyler on seeing whether such a project could go forward. She was really enthusiastic, helpful, and facilitated discussions with Public Works. We then spoke directly with Bill Gray and his staff, and I think all in all they've come up with a very well-reasoned, thoughtful policy, and I particularly appreciate the generosity of the city offering to put up signs with providing labor and overhead. I just think it's a very generous policy, and I encourage you to approve it in its final form. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Next is old business. Is there any old business? Don't see anything listed. Okay, then reports of standing committees. Committee of the Whole, ordinance number 2005-05-063. Is Libby supposed to present it? Okay.
I believe Mr. Roberts is the next Committee of the Whole chair, and
Okay.
so,
Shall I do those?
yes, so you can read through the Committee of the Whole,
Okay.
and then it comes back to the mayor.
I will do that then.
And at the end, if you could just state when the next Committee of the Whole meeting is for the public.
I will. Okay. So we have ordinance number 2005-05-063, an ordinance annexing certain territory to the city of Urbana, 2907 East Main Street, Andrew and Stephanie Boland. So, is there any discussion? First, a motion. Is there a motion to accept this?
So moved.
All right. And seconded?
Second.
All right. Is there any further discussion about ordinance number 2005-05-063? Does staff have any comments to make? Nothing new. Well, there being no comments and no staff report, does the roll call would be appropriate. Okay, could the council please call the roll? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Ms. Shenoweth?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis? Yes. Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
All right, that passed by a roll call vote. 7 in favor, none against.
6.
6, that's right. That's right, we have a missing council person tonight. The second item on the agenda is the ordinance number 2005-05-064, an ordinance approving a third amendment to a City of Urbana Community Development Block Grant Subrecipient Agreement, Disabled Citizens Foundation, project number 0304-06.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or report from the committee, from the staff on this issue? None? All right. Any discussion? All right, I believe the clerk could call the roll.
Mr. Bowers-Knox,
Yes.
Ms. Shanawith,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis. Yes. Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Smythe,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
Okay, that passed 6 affirmatives and no against. The third item on the agenda, ordinance number 2005-05-065, an ordinance partially vacating an alley east of Lincoln Avenue between Church Street and Park Street. Is there a motion from the...
So moved.
All right. All right, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any staff report appropriate at this time concerning the easement, the vacancy of the alley? All right, a discussion from council committee members? None? All right, may the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bowers-Knox.
Yes.
Ms. Shanawith,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis. Yes. Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Mr. Smythe.
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
Okay, that passed. Item D, in ordinance number 2005-05-066, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an amended agreement for the use of rights-of-way. This is at 1701 South Philo Road.
So moved.
Seconded, anybody? Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion from staff on this? Nothing forthcoming from that. And committee? No discussion? May the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bowers-Knox.
Yes.
Ms. Shanawith,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis. Yes. Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Mr. Smythe,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
All right. The last item, a specialty street name policy approval.
So moved.
Shall it be seconded?
Second.
All right. Is there any further presentation to be made by staff?
I'll just speak to it very quickly.
Yes.
Thank Liz Cardman for her kind words and echo the feeling of the neighborhood that staff did a great job putting this together so that we have a policy that applies to the entire city. I hope that other neighborhoods will take advantage of it. I wish all council meetings went this fast and this smoothly.
That's okay. Is there any other comments or discussion? I would just like to say that I think also that it's an appropriate plan for neighborhood consciousness and unification. And I think that the process of determining ultimately what the requirements are to establish the signage in a certain neighborhood area went through a thoughtful process, and the result is one that's amenable and easy to work out and actually encourages neighborhood identification in a positive way. All right, so with that, any further discussion on that? Okay, well, may the clerk please call the roll on this? Or actually, we're going to policy.
Simple majority.
A simple majority on this one would be appropriate. So those who would be in favor of this policy, adopting it, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, those would be opposed? None? Okay, that would be passed by a voice vote. That brings to a close the items that are on the Committee of the Whole reporting agenda. The next meeting of the Committee of the Whole is going to be next Monday at 7:30. That'd be May 23rd, 7:30 in council chambers. If anybody wishes to place an item on the agenda, please contact me. Okay, Mayor?
Okay. Reports of special committees. Are there any reports of special committees? Reports of officers.
Just one, Mayor, just remind council members, we will meet again as a special council meeting Wednesday, the 18th, to finish up with the departments that we don't get to tonight in terms of the budget process. So that will keep us on schedule. Apologize again for multiple meetings 2 weeks in a row, but we'll get through it.
Okay, under new business.
Ready?
Yes, do you want me to read the ordinance number, or you want to read it?
We can do items 1 and 2. I'll present items 1 and 2 together
Okay.
under new business. They do require separate actions,
Okay.
however. The first item is a request by C&C Properties of Illinois for preliminary plat approval of Waters Edge subdivision, and this is a subdivision on a site of 27.33 acre parcel just south of TK Wendell's, or as I learned tonight is now the Brick House, in East Urbana. It's also immediately south and or north and east of Stone Creek subdivision. The proposal by C&C Properties is for a mixed residential subdivision on this property, which would include 17 single-family detached homes, 72, and that's a correction on page 1 of your staff report, 72 two-unit common lot line homes, and then one large lot, which would be 11 multifamily apartment buildings when it's developed. It's zoned R5, so the zoning is appropriate. The site is equipped with all utilities, including drainage, which has been pre-engineered and is already existing on the site from when Stone Creek was developed. There are 3 waivers that were requested as part of this development. One is for the right-of-way width on streets A and B to take it from 60 feet down to 50 feet. There was a waiver request to allow all the local streets to be 28 feet instead of 31 feet, which is required by code. And then there was an alternative sidewalk plan, which is outlined for you on one of your attachments in red. The first 2 waivers for right-of-way and street width are commonly granted, and it will be a change that we'll be making to our subdivision code in the near term. Those were considered by the city engineer to be acceptable. The alternative sidewalk plan is one that we worked pretty closely with the developer with to allow for a little bit better of an overall sidewalk plan that is tailored for this site, considering there's a large detention basin and some other aspects to consider that we don't normally have in a subdivision. So the key here is that every lot in the subdivision has direct access to a sidewalk. It's just in some places it's in the front, and some places it's in the back. The Plan Commission did consider this preliminary plat on their meeting at May 5th and did recommend unanimously that the council approve it. And then the second item, which is related, is the final plat for the first phase of this development. And this is first phase would be 17 of the all of the 17 single-family lots, and then 32 of the 2-unit common lot lines, and a portion of some of the rights of way for Pebblebrook Lane, Stonebrook Court, and Stillwater Landing and Cypress Point. It's my understanding the developer intends to start construction immediately, and with phase 1. Chris Creek is here tonight. If there are any questions, he is the developer. Plan Commission did also recommend approval of the final plat, so I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Ms. Chandler.
I have a question about the sidewalks. On page 3, in the summary of findings, you say that the sidewalk layout provides necessary access to all lots. But when I look at the picture, lots 47 through 53, lots 1 through 3, actually there is sidewalk access on the other side for that, but lots 17 through 22 do not have sidewalk access. So children who live in those houses have to walk in the street or trespass on property to get to someone else's house. So that's a significant problem with this plan, as I see it.
Well, the majority of those lots that you mentioned are the ones that front on Stone Creek Boulevard. Technically, the sidewalk access for those lots is provided with a multi-use path in the median of Stone Creek Boulevard. That's true throughout Stone Creek subdivision, not just for this portion. So That was the decision made by council back in the late 90s, that would be the sidewalk provision for the overall Stone Creek subdivision. So that blue line in the median is a sidewalk for those lots that front on Stone Creek Boulevard. True, you do have to cross half of Stone Creek Boulevard to access that sidewalk. There wouldn't be one in the front yard per se. The other ones for lots 17 through, or I guess 16 through 21, would be served eventually by another multi-use path that would be built in the future on High Cross Road in their rear yards. And you see there's 3 red stubs that would also connect to that multi-use path up a little further north. So that one would be a little bit off in the future.
So just to follow up, is it the case that in Stone Creek, there are not sidewalks in front of houses, only in the boulevard? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct, right there. Yes.
And so in the findings, let's see. Okay, so just to understand this, the High Cross Road, that in some ways takes care of that. When that occurs, children who are living in those properties will be able to move between properties. But 47 through 53, essentially, a child has to cross the street to get to a sidewalk, and then when they get to the end of the boulevard, they have to cross the street again to get to the remaining sidewalk. So I just see that as a significant health and safety issue, and I don't, what it says in the findings is that these kinds of, let's see, these waivers have traditionally been granted and have been met by the approval of the city engineer. I don't remember that kind of waiver being granted in the last 4 years.
Well, that
Is
was
there another example?
That was referring more to the right-of-way width reduction and the pavement width reduction. The alternative sidewalk plan is a little special for this site. We don't typically grant sidewalk waivers unless there's some good justification to do so. In this case, we thought the alternative layout worked well. The Plan Commission did have a lot of discussion also about the multi-use path in the center of Stone Creek Boulevard, and we reviewed the history of how that path came to be and why it's there. And they were also, they understood why there isn't an additional sidewalk in front of those lots on Stone Creek Boulevard, because that path is provided.
I'm finished.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Of course, the same thing caught my eye as well. I guess that since you're explaining that we have a whole subdivision of the south that basically uses median sidewalk access instead of front yard at curb access for sidewalk traffic, somewhat alleviates my concerns about that, although I'm not real happy with it. It just seems like a strange flaw in a typical subdivision plot or plat to decide not to continue a sidewalk, which is duplicated at lot 30, and there's a lot there that's going to have a sidewalk and a median passageway right across a half a street from it. And if it was deemed appropriate that lot 30 would get such a treatment, I can't imagine why 6 more couldn't have it.
I should back up and say that this developer is technically not requesting the variance for this to not have a sidewalk along the frontage of those lots. That waiver was technically granted with the Stone Creek subdivision approval back in 1997. The reason there's the red line along lot 30, that also wasn't the original proposal. The original proposal was just have a sidewalk stub at the southwest portion of that detention basin, which would just be a sidewalk stubbing onto a curb in the middle of the street. We did actually request that sidewalk be continued up to Street B, I believe it is. So the crossing to get to that multi-use path in the middle of Stone Creek Boulevard would be at a better location than just simply ending at a curb, and then for accessibility reasons, it's a slightly better location. So.
Well, okay. Now, I've got a question also about the access along, the proposed future access along High Cross Road that would service the back halves of the homes going from 16 down to 21. Is there going to be a fence along the back perimeters of those lots which separate it from High Cross Road corridor?
I'm not aware of what their restrictions and covenants would be. There could be a fence by city codes if those lots wanted to construct a fence. They may have codes and restrictions on what kind of fences could be erected, but they would be permissible, yes.
I'm just thinking, I mean, it's typical, you have High Cross Road Boulevard, which is like going to be a heavily trafficked road for, traffic movement, and I'm just imagining that any proposed sidewalk along High Cross could potentially be separated from these several lots by a fence, a chain link fence or some kind of decorative fencing. And so, again, it seems somehow not well thought out.
Well, that would be a lot owner's choice, I suppose. Again, the long-range plan, our Greenways to Trails plan, identifies a multi-use path there on High Cross. I would think many lot owners would like to have that access as opposed to cutting it off with a fence, but
So it's an option which we can't foresee.
sure.
Okay.
Ms. Chairman. Thank you. Did I hear you correctly that we are prohibited, this body is prohibited from requiring a contiguous sidewalk along the property from lots 47 to 53 because of a prior development agreement?
The Stone Creek subdivision, that this lot was originally part of the Stone Creek subdivision, although not with the detail that we're seeing tonight, was one of the lots of that development in which a waiver was granted to allow a median path instead of sidewalks on both sides of Stone Creek Boulevard. So essentially, that was a waiver that was granted, and this developer has inherited by buying this property to develop it.
Is that, does that waiver legally continue with the purchase of that property?
If the part of the property is transferred or sold?
No, is it basically what you're saying is, yes, we legally cannot request, this body cannot request a sidewalk from lots 47 to 53?
That's my understanding, yeah,
Okay.
the waiver that was granted.
Yeah, it's something that that two previous councils ago did, and we've inherited it. Something to keep in mind would be to go out and take a look and see how it's working at some point, should something like this ever come before us. If people don't like it, that's a determination we can make, but we're stuck with this one the way it is. And, I like the fact that additional sidewalk stuff has been done, so they complete the loop around the lake. And I think the multi-use path along High Cross Road will be real useful and very beneficial for everybody there. If people put up fences, a lot of times you'll see that they put a gate at the back so that they can get out to them, sort of thing. I think that's pretty common. I would like to just move this along as quickly as we can.
Mr. Lewis.
Rob, is this a functional pond in terms of drainage?
Yeah, it holds back water before releasing it to the east. It's not just aesthetic, but it is a pond, if you will, so which serves as an aesthetic, serves both of the aesthetic purposes and functional purposes.
And for clarification, who will be responsible for maintaining that?
It's the homeowners association eventually, or the developer for now.
Are there any other questions?
I move approval.
A second.
Would this be a roll call? I guess it would be, right? This is ordinance number 2005-05-067. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Ms. Chenoweth?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Are we on to the second one now?
Yeah, I don't have anything additional to present on that.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second.
Again, a roll call, please.
Could I get you to read that one?
Ordinance number 2005-05-068. An ordinance approving a final subdivision plat for Waters Edge subdivision, Phase 1, plan case number 1936-S-05.
Ms. Barnes?
Yes?
Mr. Bowersatz?
Yes.
Ms. Chenoweth?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.